This feels more like a serious highbrow restoration compared to the sort of camera that I found in a charity shop. It was like, well, who made this? Who knows? With its tan little wheels and its weird mixture of detailing. This is much more of a venerable and well-loved kind of casting. This is, you'll probably see examples of this being done by other people of my ilk here on YouTube. In fact, well, I know for a fact there's several examples of this one being restored. I've got something slightly different in mind from the usual. That's probably misleading saying that. That sounds like I'm going to do something really, really crazy or unexpected with it. I'm not. It's quite orthodox what I'm going to do with this. Orthodox to the point. Much more orthodox than it usually is. It'll make sense as we go on, but it really is a lovely casting. I mean, look at that little MG octagon just cast into the body. I don't think you really get things like that now. So anyway, it's time to open it up, but even that is done carefully. There are a few castings out there, especially older Matchboxes from this era, where you don't actually have to drill the rivet. So we'll start as we mean to go on, treating this in a very respectful fashion. I'm not even drilling the casting. I've actually been worrying away at the rivet with, as you can see, 8 grit sanding sheets, a precision screwdriver, some long nose pliers. So I'm just trying to basically crush, sand and chisel as much of the rivet off as I possibly can, and I will only call it done when I can open it like that. I'm not well, actually no, in the end I did use a precision screwdriver just to kind of lever it open, but you've got to be so careful because there's so many things that are quite brittle on this base plate that you can break. And if you look, we've been very fortunate with this one. The suspension leaves aren't broken like they are a lot of the time on here, so we don't have that to worry about. And the back of the rear bumpers are often missing on these because the rear section of the base plate can snap off. Weirdly enough, it doesn't take the wheels with it. The wheels are sort of still there and the car still rolls, but the back bumper and the whole section of the base plate that's connected to it is just gone. So the interior's there, the guy's there, the dog's there. The dog, I'm seeing this for the first time because it's the first time I've ever actually opened one of these castings up. I always assumed the dog would be, I'm just straightening out the tow hitch there because the tow hitch just has nicely got enough of the little sort of nub still there so I can just straighten it out. And the glass seems to have escaped very well. Considering just how dilapidated this actually looked when we opened it up, a lot of the key parts of it have survived very well indeed. So I'm going to try and duck a couple of punches here if I can. The glass doesn't look bad at all, and I'm wondering if it actually needs to go through the full sanding process that I normally use as per other videos. I mean, that's fine for the 70s and 80s Matchbox window units because they're pretty thick plastic and they're almost impossible to snap, but these earlier ones are quite brittle. So the less you handle it, the better, really. So I'm just going over it with some washing up liquid for now, because we might just find that does most of what we need it to do. I mean, if you look at how that's come up, really, if the window unit was like that to start with, you probably wouldn't really feel like it needed anything doing to it. But seeing as though we've got it out, I give it, I would say probably in total about a minute, and that includes both ends. There's no point trying to do the side window because the side windows just look absolutely fine, but the front and back screens, I give them about a minute between them on the 12,000 grit pad. That's all, just the 12,000 grit pad. That's all it needed. And then I just went over it with a duster with some furniture polish on, and that just left it looking absolutely, well, like this, like new. I'll just hold the window unit over something now just so you can see. But if you just ordered a brand new reproduction one and it turned up looking like that, I think you'd be quite happy. So I think we can stop there. That's taken about a minute all in. I'm also cleaning the body up, even though the paint's quite damaged. I'm cleaning the body up with washing up liquid, and we'll see why at the end of this video. So now we're getting to the more serious task of getting the base plate clean. I was hesitant at first to really put any pressure on, but the grille and headlights quite fragile, quite exposed looking, sitting ducts really to get snapped if you put too much pressure on the base plate while you're trying to scrub it clean. So I alter the angle quite a lot, but in the end I come to the conclusion that I've just got to treat it pretty much like every other base plate and just put it firm down on the pad and just get it done, but obviously at the same time be careful and don't put too much pressure on it. But to while away the time while we get this base plate cleaned up, fortunately I've got a lot of stories about these cars. I've had some experience with them. Actually, no, I haven't. My experience has all been with the normal Morris and Austin versions and not this at all. The MG version, like this, with the different front end, I don't think I've ever actually seen one of these in the flesh at all, ever. Apart from in a museum. I'm 99% certain that I did. I definitely saw the Van den Pla version somewhere in France years ago, and I think I may have seen one of these in a museum, but I can't be 100% sure. But there aren't really going to be any great tales to come from that unless I had some kind of comical altercation with the museum's curator. It's funny, that's a word you hear a lot these days. Just in the last few years or so, you hear the word curate a lot. Everything's curated. Collections of snacks are curated and sent to you once a month. Amazon playlists are curated. And it always just makes me think of the curate out of the original H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. You know, the clergyman that sort of went mad and went outside to shout at the Martians and ended up having to be knocked out, and then he got too late because the Martians had heard what was going on and they sent a tentacle thing in and dragged him away, and presumably to a horrific fate because by then we already knew of the carnivorous nature of the Martians. And I always think of that whenever I hear of anything being curated. I always think of that. There's something comes up on Reddit saying, "Oh, you can curate your timeline or something." And I think, "Oh, what? I can go outside and shout at some Martians and get killed." Anyway, I don't know if there was a curate or curator at this museum, and if there was, I didn't have any kind of interactions with him, so there's no stories there, unfortunately. So why don't we just stick to talking about what's going on here, which is the gradual renewing of this base plate. So you'll see I've tried several methods of leaning it on things and leaning it on pads and things like that. It's because I'm concerned about the brittleness of the base plate, because so many of these end up losing that back section of the base plate. It must just snap or something. Strangely enough, the wheels still stay on, so the car still looks kind of like a car. It's just that it's got no back bumper. But the frequency to with which that occurs leads me to believe that the whole of the base plate is quite fragile. So when the base plate survives so well over all these years, you want to keep it like that. And it's not just that, but we seem to have had a lot of luck with this particular example in general. The glass could have easily been shattered, the suspension could have been ruined. Anyway, the base plate took around 10, maybe 15 minutes. I think I've shown enough of it, really. Apart from this method here, turned out to be very effective at getting the front end finally finished off and getting everything out of the sort of bars of the grille and what have you. It looks quite slapdash, but it was probably the most effective thing that I tried, just to sort of repeatedly slap it in the face with the metal toothbrush. So with the base plate and glass done, next was the interior, which wasn't a difficult task at all. I just brushed it using this isn't the metal toothbrush, it's the soft nylon brush that's been impregnated with washing up liquid, and then I just ran it under the tap and then dabbed it off with a tissue, and it's come up like brand new. I was going to say earlier, but I got sidetracked. Yeah, the dog, now that I can see it for the first time, it's bigger than I thought. I always thought it'd be some kind of small terrier, but looking at it now that I can see it in full, it looks like a big collie or something of that nature. Anyway, time to just put it all back together. Because I was so gentle with the rivet and I've left so much of the original rivet there and not killed it all by just drilling it out of existence, the base plate does actually nicely snap back together. I mean, it'll probably need a little bit of something else just to keep it secure, but there's no real reason in theory why you couldn't just leave it like that, because the rivet is even visible once it's put back together. So the axles were a bit bent, so I've just straightened those with some long nose pliers and then going over them with 600 grit sanding cloth. That just have the effect of polishing the axles, so if the wheels were getting a little bit rusty and a bit stiff, they now won't be. And then I'm just going down through the sanding grits, 3000 grit down to 6000 grit down to 8000 grit, and then finally finishing off with some lapping film. This is rough on one side. Well, it's not rough on one side, it just feels like paper on one side, and then it's shiny on the other. The shiny side, forget about it, that's no use. It's the rough side that we're interested in. And that is, like I say, it's around 8000 grit, and if you just give the wheels about a minute on there, this is what they come up like. They just look brand new. This is after you've gone down through the 3000 grit and the 5000 grit and things like that, and you've had a good couple of minutes per wheel on all those grades. That's when you get this at the end. If you just use that lapping film, it does just bring them up absolutely like new. And you can see, even though it doesn't feel like it's taken anything off, you can see the black marks on there, that is plastic that it's actually taken off. So we'll get those installed back into the base plate now, because we're finished with the base plate. We don't want to lose the wheels, and we want to get over the dreaded lifting that suspension spring back up again to get the axle underneath, because I always think it's going to break at that point. If it's one that hasn't broken up until then, I just think this is where it'll break. But luckily, it didn't. So move on to the wheels themselves. I'm going to re-chrome them using the liquid chrome. Two ways you can go about this. You can either go around, do the edge first, and then rotate it round so that it's in, each bit of it that you do is in the best position for you to be able to do it in, because it's all about what the angle's best for you, not about, don't chase the wheel round, bring the wheel to you, bring the bit of the wheel to you that you want to do, if that makes sense. So rotate it round, do each bit, and then work back in, work the spokes back in. You can do it like that. That's a good way of doing it. And then the other way to do it is just to do the whole of the centre first, like do the sort of spider that's in the middle, do all that first, and then rotate the wheel round accordingly. Like a Ferris wheel, as each bit of it gets to you, do it, and then rotate it round to the next wheel until you've got it all. Like I said, don't chase the wheel round, because then you won't be working at the angle that's best for you, and that's when you'll end up slipping and getting it outside, colouring outside the lines, which we can sort that with a cocktail stick or any other kind of reasonably pointy but blunt, if that makes sense, implement, but it's best not to do it in the first place. So this is where we are. Now, everything's done apart from the body. The base plate is like new, glass is like new, interior is like new, wheels are like new. The body's clean, it's just that it's still in its original paint, which bears some battle scars, but it begs the question, could we call this done? I think we could. I think this looks absolutely fine as it is, although with this particular one, I have got a very good idea of what colour to do with the body, so there'll very probably be a part 2. Thanks for watching.